All right, welcome to the Unconditional Dad Show. We've got our interview segment here. This is our first show, and I'm excited to bring on a friend of mine, Joe Miller, who is one of the first stay-at-home dads that I knew of. And this is easily 5 years ago, and Joe will probably correct me on this. But we both at the time worked for the government and the VA healthcare system, and I watched him go out and just kind of was a little jealous, admittedly. And so once I got to that point for our family and make a decision, it was easy to advocate for myself to be able to make the similar jump and be able to be really involved with our families. And I think as people know with this brand, the idea is let's get dads more involved with their families. So Joe, I want to say hi to you and how are things going at home?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, not an easy choice. I think there's a lot of things that go into a dad choosing to step away and decide to focus on the family a little bit more and doing good, doing good. I've got four kiddos at home now and one kiddo off in college. So very, very busy house. Very busy house.
Yeah, no kidding. I even contacted you to get this scheduled. I think you had to bring in a little bit of artillery help for the kids today, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So very lucky. My dad just moved here from Arizona to help out, uh, and so he comes over several times a week, and it's really, really helpful to have that support system to even be able to do this. We didn't have that for several years, and since he's been here, it's been a huge game changer. But yeah, he's out there with two of my kids that are, I think they're on their tablets now, and two of them are taking a nap. So the constant juggling.
That's awesome. I wonder how much that played into your decision when it was to be a stay at home dad. Is that the old adage is it takes a village, right?
Oh,
And
absolutely.
I know with us and our family, we don't have our village around us. You know, my wife's parents are at least an hour away, so are mine. Our
Yeah.
neighbors are helpful as they can be, but they're also raising families, and so it's more challenging than I expected. So how was that for you guys? The idea of your village?
So that actually was one of the things that went into me being choosing to walk away and be at home because my wife had been at home for a couple years. I've worked pretty consistently since I got out of the military, and it was to a point after my twins were born that it was becoming too much for my wife to handle on her own. And we've got a unique situation in our household. My wife is autistic. My 7-year-old son is autistic, and my three other children are also being evaluated for autism. And if you don't have any special needs kiddos or other people in your family, sometimes it's hard to understand the challenges that they face. And one of the things that's really important is this really tight, consistent schedule. And when that schedule goes off the rails, it's hard to operate. And so when we just had one kiddo at home and then two kiddos at home is a little bit easier to maintain that structure. But the minute we brought twins into it, it went off the rails. And my wife
Yeah.
was constantly having a hard time doing it. And the fact that most of our family is in Arizona, we have some family in Michigan, but you're talking several hours to get there. We have extremely supportive neighbors. We have an awesome neighborhood. That we've got one of the front yard neighborhoods where kids still go out in the front yard. They all play. They're all friends. Like it's just really cool. But our neighbors directly across the street, they've got four kiddos and they just had a baby. So it was one of those things where we're trying to support them, they're trying to support us. Then we've got another neighbors next to them, also just had a baby around that same time. So it was that constant, we're all kind of needing that support. And so that whole village aspect was really, really important. Now, take into it if you have a hard time socializing, understanding social cues. My wife was just super overwhelmed, and it came to a point where we had to actually talk about that and be like, okay, can I handle this and reach out to people I know to get that support system, and can I do it more effectively than she can? And that was not an easy choice. I've been working since I graduated high school. I've constantly been doing that. That's been something that's been ingrained in me. So when it came point for me to put down all of that just to focus on my kiddos and my wife, it was hard. It was really, really hard. And knowing that I was going to be walking into it blind was that was hard. That was really hard. But we did it, and when we did, there were a couple things that all happened right about the same time. Um, when my wife was being diagnosed, my son was being diagnosed, and we got on a program with the state that is a waiver program, which gave us vouchers to get some of the therapies we needed, some of the different groups that we needed to do. And that really, really helped because that started to develop a community for us that was extremely supportive. A lot of it is encouragement through social media, through different meetups, through different events. But having those types of things to be engaged in was huge. Because if you just try to do this and you sit at home and your kids are going crazy all the time, I don't care if it's 1, 2, or 10. If you're just at home with them all of the time and you don't have that outlet as a community with your kids, it's going to be hard. It's
Yeah.
There's no other way to put it.
I mean, you think of how hard it is and even how hard it was. Like, I feel like early on, you guys might not have had the awareness of your own family and what was going on inside the family when you even started. So what was that process like as people started to gain awareness? And is that for better or worse in the outcome so far?
Yeah. So how that whole process started actually was kind of bittersweet. So when I got hired at the VA, I had been trying to get a job at the VA for a long time. I was working in veteran services pretty much since we've been in Wisconsin. And so when I was able to get that position at the VA, I was like, sweet, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do. I'm rocking and rolling here. And it was right at that point where all of the things with my kiddos started happening and my wife started happening. And you know, that was difficult because we didn't know what to expect through all of that.
I'm going to put her back down now.
Oh, you're good. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's like managing expectations, right? And
Yeah.
figuring them out. And so, like, as you came into it, you probably had a certain set of expectations that you thought this is what being a stay-at-home parent's going to look like. Your wife had expectations. Well, how different is it today than then?
Oh, huge. It is absolutely. It's so different. So get rid of some of the stereotypes. When you're a stay-at-home parent, it is not sleeping in, getting to watch your shows, doing all your things. God, no. None of that exists. Just get that out of the way right now. It is you're up when the kids get up, because if you don't, your house will turn into a construction yard. And then that rest point, you know, eventually your kids stop taking naps. When I went into this, I only had one kiddo that wasn't taking a nap. Now I've got the twins are just starting to transition out of naps. So there's going to be a point where there's nobody napping, and I'm going to have 4 of them all day long. And, you know, being able to be engaged with them throughout the day. If you think you're going to be able to do all this housework and chores and housework, none of that exists. And I remember talking to my wife when we came into this. She's like, you know, please don't be mad at me. I didn't get the dishes done today. And then I look, I'm like, dude, we have 4 kids. It is perfectly fine. Don't worry about it. And so honestly, managing those expectations where my children are all at the age where I can't just walk away from them and then be self-sufficient. I'm not. I have one in college. When he was here, it was so nice because I'd be like, dude, watch them so I can go to the bathroom. Right?
Yeah.
It's just the little things you don't even think about. Like, when I started doing this, my twins were not even 1 yet. So I'm double car seating in the bathroom. Like, please don't crawl somewhere. Right?
Yep.
And those were things that I didn't even expect. And like you try to manage just throughout the day of, all right, these are things I want to get done with my kids. These are things that I want to do. And it really comes to a point where, okay, depending on the age of your children and the functionality of your children, you may have to put the things you want to do until they're all in bed at night. And do you pick I want to spend time with my wife? Do I want to do the things I want to do? You know, and what does that look like? And for the first couple years, we didn't have like my dad to call and say, hey, can you come hang out with the kids so I can do this thing? That didn't exist. So that I had a lot of unrealistic expectations when I started that, you know, hey, this will be great. I'll be able to do these things. It's not. There's times where, you know, I will spend an entire day with a child on me in some form or function, between on my back, on my lap, on my shoulder. They're going to be somewhere. And at the end of the day, you know what? They're remembering, you know, hey, I get to hang out with my daddy. Those are some of my favorite things.
For sure.
So I think I didn't expect how important it would be for that just engagement with my kids. Like, I thought, okay, we'll do some stuff throughout the day, but, they're going to be self-sufficient in some things. No, they're not. They're all
Well,
little.
like you mentioned routine early on, especially like the benefit of routine specifically for
Oh,
your
yeah,
family.
absolutely.
But I actually think that would benefit any family having
Oh,
that
God,
routine.
yes.
And then breaking up your day, like as I was talking to different parents, as I was coming to my decision to be a stay-at-home dad, I felt like a lot of stay-at-home parents were trying to overschedule themselves throughout the day and trying to get too much done. And then at the end of every single day, they felt like a failure. And I didn't want to do that, but I also don't want to be like a filthy casual that gets nothing done. And so I was talking to my wife that I want to actually, within this brand, I want to put on a calendar, or at least kind of a way that I go about structuring my day. And I'd be curious how you guys have done it, and if you've taken it so far as, writing it down and things like that. Is that like I want to look at a day of the week, and this is kind of how my brain works. Is I take a chunk of the morning, a chunk of the afternoon, and then my late night time. Those are my 3 chances to get anything done. And then I prioritize what I have to get done in that time, what I'd like to get that done in time, and if I get enough time, that would be cool too. Knowing full well if any of it doesn't get done because whatever happens, that's okay. And our expectations, maybe then we on the 3rd day, then we really grind together and my wife helps, kicks in and we go in overdrive and get the house back in order.
Yep.
But that was kind of the thing. And I'm going to build a calendar out and a schedule, and I want to put that out and share it with people as a freebie here. But I'm curious for you guys, have you made that translation into anything written, or how does your family communicate what the week looks like and who's going to try to get what done?
No, absolutely. So we have and I can't show it to you because it's mounted to the wall. We have a visual daily calendar. So it's little Velcro things that you can put on and take off. And so we've got some hard, fast rules in the house that we don't get up before 6. So we started with lighted sound noise things in their room, so it will change colors at different times. And so yellow means it's almost time to get up. Green means you can get up. So we use that for so my twins are 3. One of my sons is 7. My daughter is 5. She's almost 6. So they can tell time. They know what the time is. So they have clocks in their room, and they know that they can't come in. They can't get out of their room until 6 a.m. Because unfortunately my 7-year-old has insomnia, so he will be up several times throughout the night. And one of the ways that we've tried to help him is, okay, you can get up, these are your books in your room, these are things but you can't leave your room until 6. So that's the first hard fast rule. Is 6 o'clock is wake up time. Our next hard fast rule is we have nap time for the twins, happens by 10 a.m. So if they are starting to get really tired by 9:30, 9:45, that's fine, but by 10 a.m. they need to be down for nap. When that happens, I homeschool the other 2, so that's when they start school. So they've got and it's some type of activity. It's either their workbooks, it's a show, it's a craft, it's something that they do at that time, and we do that until they're finished. I know a lot of people try to schedule out, okay, we're gonna do this for an hour, this for an hour, this for an hour, that sometimes it takes that long, sometimes it doesn't. So one of the things I try to encourage people with that is just go till they're done. When they're done, you're done, right? Then we do lunch. We have a snack. We have snack is at 3, and so we have lunch, and then they wait till 3. At 3 o'clock they have a snack, and then we do bedtime anywhere between 7 and 7:30 depending on the day. And so those are my hard rules. Everything else in between there, we have a family meeting in the morning of just as we're eating breakfast. Okay, hey, is there anything you guys want to do today? And so Monday through Thursday is when we do our hard fast schooling. So if like this week is Halloween week, so my kiddos have been like, hey, I want to color pictures for Halloween. Can we do that? So how we're starting school every day is we print off some pictures for Halloween. They do that. Then they do their workbooks. And they get to pick, okay, what are the things we want to focus on? And so we have those throughout the day. And I ask them, and I take the old die, defend type of mentality with it. What are the things like you were going to do this versus I'm okay if you don't?
Yeah.
And it's the die, defend, discuss. There we go. So I was like, okay, what are the things that I absolutely want you to get done? And what are the things if they don't get done, it's not the end of the world? And we use that. So,
I love that because it's like three options, right? The same
yep,
thing when I talked about scheduling RD, like it
yeah,
has to happen, would like to happen, maybe if we get to it. And the same thinking is like, I think with these kids, like we need to have some choices, or we need some flexibility. And
hmm.
so building that in with these three different parameters, I think it's genius. I think it's smart.
Well, and when you look at that, there's some things that I can just be like, okay, we're not going to get that today, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I talked to my wife about that in the morning. I'm like, hey, okay, what are the things that you'd like to see get done around the house? You know, like, are we running out of socks and underwear? Do I need to do the laundry? Do we have enough dishes to eat? You know, those types of things. And when we work in those chores, my kiddos are starting to get old enough where they can start to help with that. And so we talk about those, and then we try to give rewards for if you do things above and beyond, if you take initiative, if you try to help us with the daily chores. And then the only other thing we do is Fridays we do field trip day, and so we have that locked into our schedule of, okay, Monday through Thursday we're doing school, we're going to be at home focusing on school, but Fridays we get to go on a field trip.
Oh man, I might have to grab a bottle quick.
You're good.
This is the fun of it, right?
Yeah,
This is why we're doing it.
absolutely.
Well, to think that like I've got one kid at home and I'm not even like she's an infant, and you've got how many kids at home and you're also teaching?
4, yeah. Well, and it's fun because the one of the really cool things that I never expected about being a stay-at-home dad was just the interactions I get with my kids. Like,
Yeah.
I'll get to see every once in a while. I'll go to the kitchen and I'll come out, and then two of them are sitting next to each other, just playing with each other, all happy as can be. Yesterday, I came downstairs and three of them are sitting in the lazy boy all next to each other watching the show. It's those types of moments that you forget that I was up at 2 o'clock in the morning with one of you screaming at me because you had a nightmare and I got to put you back to bed, and then you're up at 6 a.m. Right? And there's hard things about it, and don't get me wrong, there's some really, really hard days, but I think that the benefit that you get, right? So there are so many times where our focus is on really the things that we want to do. Like, I want to do these things, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. But the most lasting impact you can make is inside your own family.
Yeah.
And, I want my kids to remember me when my time is done of, hey, my dad took the time to be with me and engage with me and do things with me, because I think when they eventually become parents, that's going to set an example for them of, hey, my parents were willing to do these things for me, and I appreciated that. So I think that blends to a little bit better community as we keep growing too, because I think we're teaching our kids important lessons, right?
Yeah.
Is my family was having a really hard time when I stepped away from my job. My little ones were too young to really conceptually understand why I was doing it, but it led to great conversations with my oldest. My oldest is 18 years old, and so he asked me, he's like, Dad, why would you quit your job to go home? These guys are crazy. It's insane at the house all the time.
Yeah.
I said, that's why, right? Because I'm able to handle that a little bit better. So I'm gonna go home for that, and I'm gonna kind of help everybody out. And it really, that if anybody in my family had jacked up their perceptions, it was him, because that's not something he was ever used to. And so for him now as an adult, we have a little bit different relationship than I do with the younger ones, and it actually has improved because of what I did, and it has influenced his thinking on what he wants to do and how he interacts with people. One big thing, like, kind of blew my mind. I was out to dinner with him the other night, and he said, Dad, I really kind of think about if I'm going to have a relationship with someone, with my friends or anything else. I'm like, what is the benefit of doing that? Is it, we use life-giving a lot when we talk about stuff. Is it really life-giving, or is it life-sucking? Right?
Ooh, I like that.
And if it's life-sucking, why am I doing it? Like, if I dread doing this all the time, he's like, I actually had some friends that every time I was hanging out with them, it was just a life-sucking experience. Like, didn't feel great by the time I left, but then I hung out with these other people and I felt great and couldn't wait to hang out with them again. And, I think about what you said, that when you make those sacrifices to do things for the betterment of other people, you kind of change your perspective, right? Because then you start looking at the environments you're in and, okay, would I be willing to do that for this person or not? And if it's not, why?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think I think after COVID, there's been a lot of introspection, or people like really evaluating what their life is like. And you guys, I think, were in the grind prior to it. But
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, that aided in my decision. One of the things I was excited to do is bring a level of professionalism to the home, because my wife works too. And so when we were both trying to divide and conquer, the marriage had strain, relationships with the kids were strained. And I think I just kind of grew tired of it, and a window of opportunity opened, and I was like, this could be a really good opportunity for us to like just really get ahead of things with our home. And I know one of the first things we did right after the discussion was we got back into meal planning again, something we'd tried 3 or 4 years prior. It just got away from us. But now all of a sudden we've got structured meals. Our spending's come down on food, less food waste. We've got involvement from the 6-year-old who can be a little bit of a picky eater. Well, now she has choice, and it's improved it so much more. I'm not preparing a special meal for her all the time. And so I think our family is just having a better experience just in the last kind of month of me easing my way into this position.
Yeah, so when I came into it, that was another unrealistic expectation I had. Is when I came into it, I was like, well, I'll just make food and they'll all eat it. I think any
And
parent
how's that
right now would
going?
be like, yeah, right.
How's that
Yeah.
going?
Yeah, much better now, because we did the same thing. When I noticed that they just weren't eating the stuff I was making, I'm like, okay, what the heck?
Yeah.
So then I started asking them, I'm like, what do you want to eat? And really started to figure out things. And when I figured that out, I was like, okay, how can I make food for everybody? Because I'm cooking for 6 people several times a day. It's like, all right, how can I do this that everybody's going to be able to eat, and we're not eating McDonald's chicken nuggets 24/7, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so doing that meal planning, all the kids get a say in what we do. And so I have my 5-year-old. I have no idea how she became a vegetarian, but she just doesn't like to eat meat. Like, she'll eat
Yeah,
chicken
fair
every
enough.
once in a while, but so all of our meals have a lot of veg, like a lot.
Yeah.
And then we'll have some meat, and we don't have a lot of the rices and the pastas, because 2 of the 4 will eat it. And so it's what I very much, we go into meal plan and talk about, okay, what is the thing that you guys want? And so trying to find the thing that they all eat has been better. And anytime like they all are inhaling the food, that's like, that gets a gold star.
Yeah.
That's almost
Like,
a weekly staple.
did I love all that? So like, I remember back in my days as a therapist, is like I would be sitting in these discussions about people's healthcare, and all these people would be talking about somebody else. And I just remember there was so many times I was like, what does this person want for themselves? Do we know what they even want? And a lot of times it was crickets. And it's just like, well, guys, let's go ask them, and let's build a plan around that. And so as you start to ask the kids, like, and you're shifting from this authority figure to like more of a guiding figure, which I think is more modern for sure, and like especially as modern dads, what we're trying to do, like get these kids to be invested in the outcomes of it, and they're more likely going to enjoy the experience. And with my daughter, with food, all of a sudden one day she's like, I want green meal so I can have broccoli. And I'm like, all right, well, we can't just have broccoli. Like, what else are we going to do? The kid actually ate pesto. Like we
Nice.
actually made some pasta with pesto sauce, and she ate it really good. So it's like the gold star on that one. Like that's definitely one of Fiona's picks now.
Yeah, and those are great, because so we have a garden every year, and we let the kids pick, okay, what's one thing you want to grow, and they, I don't know what we did, but all my kids eat vegetables. They love them. Cool.
Write a book.
Right. I think it was
I'd buy
like
it.
we didn't offer like a lot of the sweet fruits to them when they were little. We just didn't.
Sure.
And so they all grew up eating a lot of the vegetables and really, really like them. And so any of like the veg heavy stuff they like to eat, and then we sprinkle in some of the meats. So trying to find the ones they like. And go figure, my kids like wild game more than they like the other stuff. So I like to hunt. I get deer, duck, pheasant, quail, any of that. They will eat that, no problem. I go get ground beef, they don't want it. uh, and weird, very weird, very very weird. I don't understand it. I've asked them. They just think it tastes better. My 7-year-old will eat just about anything, but the 5-year-old and 3-year-olds, they are extremely picky when it comes to the meat they're eating, which
Stay-at-home dad, teacher, and now homesteader.
right?
Like, I don't think that you're playing life on easy mode.
Oh God, no! I missed the easy button. Was it the down, right, up, left, A, B, start? Yeah, that's gone for me.
I wish my family would eat game meat. I've got pounds and pounds of goose, duck, and venison and stuff in the
Right.
freezer, and I've got to, I got to process it pretty heavily to get them to want to eat it. Like even right now, I've got a bunch of goose curing so I can make pastrami out of it in hopes that my wife will eat it. And if she doesn't, all my friends are going to be benefactors of it.
Right. Yeah. No. I think we started with. I think we started with deer, so they started with that, and they all liked that. I did a quail hunt last year, or no, pheasant hunt last year in Kansas, where we came back with quite a bit,
Oh yeah, I remember
and they all enjoyed that. They didn't enjoy the metal BBs, but they enjoyed the rest of it. And I think it was, and I tried not to do a lot of doctoring to it the first couple times, and then I'll kind of experiment. What can you handle?
that.
But they have really enjoyed that. So we've really put a priority on trying to get to a point where we're replacing as much organic stuff into what we're eating as opposed to the processed stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
And one of the best ways you can do that is through hunting, right? And so we like to do that a lot. But when we getting back to that schedule of the eating and the meal planning, that is like we feed 6 people, and it is a lot of money to go buy the groceries for all those people. And if we spend money on the processed stuff, like if we get fruit snacks and chicken nuggets and all that, it costs a ridiculous amount of money. But if we go buy all of the vegetables and we buy the individual ingredients and we do these things, it's forcing us to actually make things instead of throw things in a microwave.
and
And
I think if you have a good schedule, sorry, and a good like
no, go
routine,
for it.
you're going to find efficiencies that make that not such a heavy task. Like the idea of making, the other day I made potato soup from scratch, and I think on the whole that sounds like a big deal, but if you budget your time right and you've got yourself a half hour to do some prep and some chopping, go for it, because at the end of the day you're going to end up with a super cheap hearty meal that feeds a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. And I think one of the key hacks that we have is I've got 2 instant pots and a crock pot.
Nice.
Right? So there's some times where we know, all right, we're going to be gone for this much time, but we want to have this for dinner. Let me build this in. Like beef stew is one of the things that's one of the gold star things. So I'm like, sweet. Wake up early in the morning. Well, everyone's eating breakfast. I'm drinking coffee. I'm chopping stuff up. It's going in the crock pot, turn it on, and I don't have to worry about it the rest of the day.
Yeah,
And then same thing with the Instant Pot. I'm like, okay, they want chicken and like we'll do chicken and gravy. Okay, cool. Oh crap, the chicken's frozen in the Instant Pot. There you
Yep.
go. 30 minutes
yeah, when
later,
I found
we're
out you
good.
could throw frozen stuff in the Instapot, I was like, this is so made for like working families or anything like that, or anybody who's really busy.
Yeah,
No,
and
so this leads me to an interesting segue. Like, what other gadgets? Like you mentioned the Instapots, the crock pots. I love gadgets, and I've got so many. My wife is trying to ban some of them from the kitchen, but like, what makes your life easier?
okay. So I'm running out of counter space. One of the crazy when I got out of the military, I went to culinary school, and I think that was like one of the my family eats really well, but it drives my wife crazy with all the stuff that I want to use, and so we've had to really shim that down. So we've got the things that are absolute game changers for me. We have a Dash waffle maker that is a 4 waffle thing. So they make one of the common ones are the little single ones that make little circles. That just the output's not enough. So we have one of the ones that does 4, and it helps that I've got 4 kids. So every 4 minutes that pops out a new waffle. Chop it, they all get one. While they're eating that, the next ones are going. That has been, I mean, like my mom got that for us for Christmas 2 years ago. Almost every day I'm texting her, thank you,
I like that you've got it down to such a science. It's like a McDonald's. You get like 4 minutes for this or whatever. Like I know exactly how this is going to play out.
Yep. So it's that having a high capacity waffle iron that can do things quick. Like we've got it down. It's 4 minutes and 22 seconds. That's how long it takes. Once the batter goes down, you close the lid, pops up, ready to go.
Nice.
There's that. We have a foreman that when I first moved to Wisconsin, I didn't have a foreman because I like to do a lot of things on the grill. And January I went outside to do stuff on the grill, and I decided that it was cold and I didn't like standing out in the cold for 45 minutes cooking on the grill. So we came inside.
Yeah.
So having that foreman has been helpful, but the Instant Pots. I think for any family, those Instant Pots changed the game because, look, I may have a plan to make the beef stew in the morning. That's going to take 8 to 10 hours on the slow crock pot, right? But kids didn't sleep. Someone's not feeling good. One of my kids blew out of their diaper, right? And I'm losing all of this time that I would normally spend for that, or something happens, right? We have kids. God knows what's going to happen throughout the day. That has made it so even if I've only got 5 minutes to throw stuff in there, I can hit go on that and dinner will be ready in 20, 30 minutes, right? Yeah. And so I think that if I had to only choose 2 things to keep in my kitchen, it would be the waffle iron and an Instant Pot. The rest of the stuff would go away because they've just been such game changers for us. And I can make waffles savory. I can make them sweet. I can do all the things. We just had waffles for dinner the other night, and I did it's funny you said pesto. We did a pesto basil waffle. And my son made a chicken sandwich with them and just ate that.
Nice.
My daughter put artichoke and cream cheese on it and ate it. And that was dinner.
Yeah, the creativity there for the kids. That's awesome. Like anytime the kids can be involved, like one of the things I really like in our kitchen is we bought a little nylon knife set so our 6-year-old can be involved in food prep. And I've got videos when she was like 4 years old chopping her own strawberries up before, of course, then she soaked them through a bunch of Nutella. But that's, our kitchen runs on Nutella. Like if there was stock for Nutella, and there probably is, I should buy it. I'm single-handedly keeping that company in business right now.
Yeah, we bleed hummus. Is just
nice.
The 3 of them love it, so they're just sitting there constantly, just like, will you please stop?
Yeah.
I've got a 5-pound bag of garbanzo beans that.
That's exactly it. It's not you're not buying it as it is. Like you're getting the components and you're building it at home, and it's all part of your family's story at this point, which I find interesting. Like being more invested in what the outcomes look like. There was so many things I wanted to mention earlier, but there's just so many moments you're missing. I feel like when you're working and outside of the home, and there was whether it was some TikTok, Instagram, I forget what it was, but it was like there's only so many times you drop your kid off for a first day at school, or so many times you do this, and that was kind of like, oh man, like I don't know that that's what I want out of being a parent, to be able to come in retirement and then maybe hang out with my kids. Like I'd rather do it now because there's no guarantees they're going to want to be around me at some point. Like if I do a good job now, maybe I'm hedging my bet. But if I really want them to be around me, or I want them to make good choices and partners, I think the time to be effective on that is now.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. So I am very lucky that I've got 4 younger kids and 1 older kid. Because my 18-year-old, when he was 16, hated me. Absolutely hated me because I was gone all the time. He was born when I was still in the military, and I was gone a lot. He was born when I was at NTC, and we lived there for several years, and I worked as an OC. And so when a rotation would come through, I was working 12 to 18-hour days. I would come home long enough to sleep, and sometimes I'd be gone for 2 weeks. And as the unit was there, I was there, and so I'd be gone for 2 weeks, and then I'd come back, and just that in and out, and my ex-wife couldn't handle that. She said, this is not what I want. And so my son had a lot of anger towards me for a long time. Even when we moved here to Wisconsin, he was with us. He still was really, really frustrated about that. And even when he was here, it was like, all right, dude, I drop you off at school, I go to work, you get home before I get home, we have dinner, and then we go to bed, right? And you don't get any interaction that way. And now that he's moved out of the house, he's in college, we have had much deeper conversations. There was a lot of apologizing that I had to do to him, and that's not something I want with my other kids. And being able to take a deep breath and receive that feedback from my son has benefited his 4 siblings, because a lot of things he said really impacted me. Like, I didn't get to know you a lot because you just weren't there. And that's fair. And I think for any, and this goes into our culture in the military too, that's a fair assessment. When you're working 12 plus hour days, that's 12 plus hours you're not with your family. And when I got out of the military, like I had the dream of I was going to do 20. When I retired, I was going to sit on my front porch and go fishing and yell at kids on my lawn, right? That was my dream.
That's great.
And that didn't happen. I got out. I had to get out early. I got out, medical crap. And now, I was looking at this and I'm like, I didn't know how to act. And so I just did what I knew to do, and I would go to work. And so when he told me, he's like, dude, you just weren't there. Like, you would come to some of my sports stuffs, but like we'd be at home at night. Like, I went to go do stuff with you because I thought it was a way I could hang out with you, but it's not what I wanted to do. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, I'm huge into jiu-jitsu. I've been training jiu-jitsu for 15 years. I took my son to go train with me because I thought it'd be something he would like. 4 years into him training, I could see that he wasn't there. Like, the first couple years, he was all excited. Then it just got to a point where it was like, I don't want to be here. I'm doing this for you, not because I want to be here. Yeah. And we had a really big heart to heart. I'm like, look, dude, if you don't want to do this, just tell me. He's like, I don't want to do it. I'm like, okay, what do you want to do? He said, well, I want to lift instead. Okay, go do that. And he kind of looked at me like, what? Are you serious? I'm like, no, yeah, I'm serious. If that's what you want to do, I want to support you in doing that. And it really broke my heart that he spent 2 years trying to do the things that he thought I wanted him to do and thinking I wouldn't support him in what he wanted.
Well, how many dads wouldn't, though?
Yeah.
I think
unfortunately, yeah.
What we're trying to do is something different. And there's been a lot of awesome dads. I'm not saying there hasn't been over time, but I think like the level of involvement is increasing, or at least the demand is there for it. Like, if dads really want to step up and be involved with their kids, that they can.
Yeah.
I know I used to think it was about quality. So like, if I got some free time on a weekend and I took my daughter to the movies, that would be memorable. That's not where the memories are made. The memories are made on Monday morning trying to get her out the door, and instead of being a jerk to her because she's not brushing her teeth, I just start making jokes. I'm like, mm-hmm. Are you mad at your toothbrush right now? Have you two been fighting? Is there something I don't know about between you two? And I just kind of get a little bit out there. And then it kind of pulls her back in because she realizes maybe the ridiculousness of why are we just deciding that we don't want to brush our teeth today or whatever. And I can shine light on that instead of digging in against her and then now we're fighting from different sides. That never works with my 6-year-old. She's just like me. There's no reason to even try because she's going to dig in so hard. It's just not going to work.
Right. Yeah.
So it's nice to hear, like, for you with your kid, when you have that opportunity shift to just be like, well, what do you like? Like, and then just support it. That's a super hard transition, I think, for a lot of parents to make.
Oh, it was hard because then I'm sitting there with that guilt of, dude, I was forcing him to do something that he didn't want to do. He didn't want to do it. And here I am forcing him, and he thought he had to. And that sucked.
Yeah.
When you realize that your kids are doing things because they think that you want them to do it, I think it's a really dangerous thing. And it's really dumb, but we were watching the new movie Elemental, and my little ones love it. And I'm sitting there, and my wife's like, why are you getting all choked up about that? I'm like, dude, I just did that. And she's like, oh yeah. And I'm like, yeah, and if you just talk to me, I will be able to support you guys. And I think that comes from, it really came from him. Like, having that conversation with him really, really changed what I do with my other children. And when I do talk to other dads, one of the things that I really want to get through is, while you think that quality time is important, it is. It really is. But what is it that they want from you? Not do you want from them, but what do they want from you? Do they want you to sit down and do the tea party? Do they want to go to the park? Do they want to lay on top of you? What is it they want to do that they feel the most connected with you? Right? And if that can be achieved, those where those memories are going to happen, right? Those are where and this was the hardest thing. It's not about my memories with them, it's about their memories with me. That is more important.
That's powerful. Yeah, because I think for me, like I have a level of maturity just to understand what it is for what it is, but kids don't, and so making sure that they're in the moment too, I think is important. That's powerful.
Yeah, I just let's see, 2 days ago, yesterday. I don't even know what today is. Today's Tuesday. There we go. Sunday.
Tuesday.
Yeah. So Sunday, kids were all kind of bonkers, and we had just done our downtown trick or treating, so they were all hyped up for that, and we had a little bit more of an amped day. Some kids were all really hyper, and I just I'm getting frustrated. My wife's getting frustrated. We're like, y'all, the energy level is like way up here. So I just looked at my two oldest kids. I'm like, what do you guys want to go do? Because you're starting to drive me crazy. What do you want to do? And they both told me that we want to go do this. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's get dressed, go to the bathroom, get in the van, let's go. And it was maybe a 15-minute round trip of what we did. Came home, and just the energy level of the house was so much more calm. They were so excited.
Yeah, cool.
They were still talking about it this morning. And that's the benefit. That is the benefit of, and it's silly things. Like it is some of the silliest things. Like, hey, Daddy, I just want to drive around and look at the giant pumpkin. Okay, cool. Let's go do it. And go stop in front of the house with the giant pumpkin and sit there for a couple minutes and then go back. And that's all they wanted. That's what they wanted to do. And they're still talking about the giant pumpkin. I'm thinking about, okay, I'm going to need you to take you to the park. We need to play for this long, get your energy out, do things. No. It's not what they wanted to do.
Yeah, my internal desire to overcomplicate everything in my life sometimes bleeds on the kids to be like, oh, well, now I have to do this. In reality, you don't. Mm-hmm. Just go sit on the front steps and get the water balloons out or something. Like, sometimes it's that simple.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Here's the bubbles. Go.
I think the next thing I'd like to hear about is you'd mentioned early on that Fridays you get the kids out of the house and do field trips, wherever. Go on and share a little bit about that. I think not just for me to benefit from, but any of these other dads or other stay-at-home parents that could benefit.
No, absolutely. So, as I think any stay-at-home dad knows, this is not an easy process. So come Friday, I'm pretty burned out. I'm tired. I've got a lot going on as well. And so my wife wants to be involved with the homeschooling. She's a full-time student right now. She's back in school. And so, she's at school all the time. Not all the time, but she's got classes. And so when she comes home, she's trying to maximize her time with the kids, but she doesn't have class on Friday. And so because of that, we really talked about, we asked the kids, what do you guys want to do with mommy? And they wanted to do field trips with mommy every Friday. And so every Friday we take into account, okay, what have we been studying for the week? What is something we want to do? Sometimes I go, sometimes I don't. It depends on what the thing is. One Friday we went to a pumpkin patch because we were studying plants. And so we went and we talked about why some had multiple pumpkins on the vines, why some had one. And we talked about that. Then one time they went to Sensory Zone. At one time we went to the Children's Museum, went to the zoo, went to, it's those things. And we do a different thing every Friday. And it doesn't cost money to go to the zoo. We got a yearly membership for the Children's Museum, so we can go there. We've budgeted to be able to we go to Ulbrich Gardens. It's free to go there, right? And so finding some of those resources that are around that you can go to, we really prioritize having that as a thing. And the kids know it. So Friday morning, Thursday before they go to bed, we get to go on a field trip tomorrow. Friday morning when they wake up, 6 a.m., jumping up and down on our bed, where are we going on the field trip today, right? And it's become such a huge thing for them that it is now an expectation, and it's an excited one. It's not
Yeah.
oh, we got to do this. It's like they're crazy excited about doing it. And even the 3-year-olds are starting to ask when they get to do it. And that's because it bleeds that excitement. And it gives it's not just for them either. There's such a level of fun. Like when we went to the pumpkin patch, just dropping the kids and let them run through this field to pick up pumpkins, and then watching them try to pick up pumpkins that were like some of them bigger than them. Like it's hilarious to see, but it's also beneficial for them to just be out there and not having to I'm not sitting there yelling at them of don't go there, don't go there, don't do that,
Yeah.
don't touch that, right? And even when we go to places like the children's museum or the zoo, it's not just that we're going there to get them out of the house. We're going there for school, but we're also going there for the engagement, right? And they ask us a lot of questions, and we get to answer those with them. And I think that's something that's a lot of fun. And the fun aspect needs to be there. If you're staying at home all the time, you need to find something that's fun, and it's got to be fun for everyone. Because if it's not, you're gonna go bonkers.
Well, I think that's where the creativity comes in, and I'm glad you guys also have the wherewithal to tie it back to the stuff that's like talked about that week to further reinforce it. Because like, man, I've sat in a lot of classrooms over the years, but the moment you get out into the wild, you seem to forget a lot of that stuff. And I remember there was a therapy technique I was picking up called motivational interviewing, and I had learned it and done these seminars several times, enough to where I could probably walk out and say I felt proficient. Well, then I did one where I had to record all my sessions and get a consultant and hear it back and get scored. Not after that, I felt like I was marginally okay at it. But until I had to really take it out and test it and actually get some type of feedback, I didn't know anything. Honestly, I was fooling myself and I was trying to fool other people. And I think the same thing as parents, like as you're doing these things, you take it out and you're like, well, let's crawl, walk, run this. Now we're in kind of this guided phase where we've moved along. I love it.
Yeah, and my wife asked me the other day, she's like, are you trying to treat our kids like they're in the army? And I'm like, no. They're not soldiers. But I'm using techniques I learned, right? I went through the ranks. I made it up to E7, became a warrant officer, and there's so much teaching that you do along that way, and you learn the wrong ways more often than not, and then you learn the right ways. And then, I've taught for several years, and so when I look at my own kids, I've made so many mistakes teaching, like so many, and being able to learn from those. When it comes to my kids, I'll take a win here and there, right? That like, okay, they want to color, they want to go out to the arboretum. This is where I knew we were doing something right. We went to the arboretum, we took all the kids, and the 5-year-old ran up to a tree and she said, "Daddy, this is the syrup tree." And I'm like, sweet. You know what that is.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like I'm gonna guess that you and your current wife, she wasn't around you in the military, was she?
No, so I actually met my current wife right after I separated. So after I separated.
The reason I was curious is that like, if somebody's like, "Oh, you're treating your kids like the military," I'd be like, "You don't have a clue." Like every time that they lose a toy, we would be doing hands across the household. All functions cease to exist until we found this sensitive item, the toy or whatever we needed. Like I think about my wife sometimes, because I met my wife afterwards. When she hears about some of the dumbest things that we had to do, it's just off the charts. She's like, "I don't understand why adults would do that." And I'm like, "Well, I don't either, but you just do it." Yeah. That's great.
No, I've like, look at our house. If I was treated like soldiers, it would not look like this. It looks like we have 4 small children in our house. Right?
Yeah, I remember even back in the day, you'd leave, like, you wouldn't have your corner angled correctly or tucked in correctly, and everybody's bed would get tossed. You'd have 80 beds tossed and a big old just pile of stuff mixed up, and like a tornado came through all because one little corner on somebody's bed wasn't creased correctly.
45 degrees. Come on now.
Yeah. Stuff like that. No, this has been an awesome conversation. I think I'll have to have you back more in the future to go in depth on some different stuff, but definitely, thanks for coming on and sharing everything that's worked for you guys so far. And, we'd love to hear more from you and wish you guys the best.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And good luck with your little one. This is some of the most fun times. Before they start walking and crawling and talking, this is the best.
in the thought of this show, it's like I was like, oh, I'll have to find somebody to take care of the baby, and it's like, what am I doing? Like, if I'm stay-at-home dad, I'm stay-at-home dad. The baby's here, and if I have to change her diaper or feed her in the middle of an episode, that's what we're doing today.
Oh, absolutely.
We're
Absolutely.
living in it. Cool. Yeah, take care, Joe. And if anybody wants to look Joe up or follow him on social media, go ahead and check out, as you can see on the screen, at the Scruffy Fam. You'll see all the different side projects that keeps Joe busy when he gets his time away from the kids, as well as some of the fun stuff that happens on a random Tuesday when you just take a picture and be like, "How? It's Tuesday. How did we get here?" So I love that stuff. I've been following Joe. We've been friends for probably I'd say around 8 years now. So we'll definitely stay in touch. And thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you very much.